Hi guys, welcome to my video journal. This is video discussion number 3. So before I start, I usually have the questions and I read them off before I answer, but I actually left my computer at home and I'm currently at work, so I'm going to try my best to go off of memory of like what the questions were before I say my answers to them. So the first one, the question was talking about, do I consider sex workers to be an in-group or something else? And I said that sex workers would be considered an in-group. And I say this because an in-group is defined as a group that people believe themselves to feel like they belong to and believe is also an integral part of their identity. And when it comes to sex workers, such as strippers or porn stars or anything in that sex work realm, there are plenty of people who feel like they belong in the field. Whether that be because of external factors such as people making them feel like that's the field that they should go in, or them feeling like they're pressured to work in the sex industry, or internal factors like just feeling like you belong in a space where you're able to be sexual in your work. Either way is fine. And then I said that also when it comes to an in-group, the part of the definition where it says that people feel is integral and a part of their identity, I feel like with sex workers, sometimes like them being a sex worker is integral to their identity because it can serve as a marker of certain personality types. Like for me, when I think of a sex worker or a stripper or whatever have you, I tend to think of personality markers like free-spirited, carefree, hustler, go-getter, things of that nature. And then for number 2, the second question was like, did the video's description of a stripper index reinforce or challenge society's traditional views of a job? And I said that the video's discussion of the stripper index reinforces traditional ideas of what jobs are valued in society. I say this because in terms of financial value, strippers are not a job crucial to society. They're not your doctors or your dentists or things that you need to have in life, jobs that have to stay in business because people genuinely need them. Strippers do not fall into that category. It's simply a luxury to go to a strip club. And then I also said it is purely a luxury business, therefore society feels no obligation to keep it running. It's not a job that offers customers a service they truly need and will be beneficial to them. And then for number 3, the question was, let me read. Question 3 was just asking what the stripper index is, basically. And I said, sorry for the noise in the back. I said the stripper index in economics refers to the graph that details the earnings of strippers. It can be used to predict market downturns because it serves as an indicator of when people are doing less discretionary spending than before. And then furthermore, tying it into question number 4. Question number 4 was saying, question number 4, I remember now. It was asking how the spending habits of strippers and how the income of strippers gives insight into the economy and how the market's looking at the time. And I said the spending habits and incomes of strippers provides insight into the economy because it is directly tied into and depends on society's economic status. And what I mean by that is strip clubs stay in business because of the people in society. So a stripper's income will be higher and their spending habits will be more lavish and they'll have more room to spend, especially on discretionary spending, when society has more money in their pockets to spend on the strippers, to spend on discretionary spending. And that signifies, that the economy is doing great and that the market is well. On the other hand, when the economy is not well, strippers will be able to tell because their income will be drastically lower than what they're used to, and their spending habits will also have to change as a result of that because they will no longer be able to spend lavishly and have more room for discretionary spending. They're going to have to try to be meeting their basic needs first. They might be scraping change by to get their rent, to pay their bills, to pay for their groceries and things like that. So I would say that the income of strippers and their spending habits definitely is tied into the economic status of people, like in the economy, because the job solely relies on the money of society. And then I also said sorry about that, guys. I also talked about how I've seen like certain videos of people being like strippers, specifically being like they made like $500 in a night or $1,000 in a night, like every other night, and things like that. So the money that they make just depends on the money that society has to spend on them. And then let's see what else did I have in the answer. That's pretty much it. And then for question number 5, the question was asking how discretionary and non-discretionary spending relate to social class and economic inequality. And I said discretionary and non-discretionary spending relate to social class and economic equality because the room for discretionary spending will be larger the higher you are in the social class, and vice versa. A person making $90K a year will have way more disposable income and room for discretionary spending than somebody who was making, let's say, like $40K a year. It's going to be a significant difference. And then relatively non-discretionary spending as well also ties into social class because the ability to meet these needs, to have the ability to pay your rent, to pay your bills, to pay for your groceries, that's also going to depend on your social class and your economic status. You know, how much money you're making in a year. Are you lower class? Are you poor? Are you middle class? Are you higher class? All those factors tie into how much money you have for discretionary spending and non-discretionary spending, and if you're able to meet those needs in non-discretionary spending. And then number 6, the question was asking if discretionary spending industries like the sex work industry are seen as good barometers for economic trends. I said yes, discretionary spending industries like the sex industry are seen as good barometers for economic trends because they show when people have more or less ability to spend extra money on unnecessary things. Because like I said, the strip club and seeing strippers, that is not a necessary thing in life. Nobody thinks that's a necessary, well, you never know, but for most people that's not a necessity that they have to have in life. So when they are going to the strip clubs, clearly they're in a good financial standing and they have the money to be spending it on these strip clubs, just throwing it around. When they don't have the money, they're not going to be going to the strip clubs, and as a result of that, you will see that the strip clubs will be having less customers, less engagement. The strippers will be going home with less money. So I think that the strip club can be a really good indicator of how the economy is doing. And then also, this was just an addition. It doesn't really have to do with like economic trends, more so societal trends. I was like, additionally, I also think that it could represent a societal switch as well. Like if the engagement at a strip club is going down, I feel like that could also represent a societal switch, like maybe society moving towards a more conservative space where it's being looked down upon to go to strip clubs and to engage with strippers. So as a result of that, they're losing their audience. That was just something I found interesting. And then question number 7 was question number 7 was asking why sociologists might be interested in anecdotal evidence and also more formal evidence when it comes to investigating market trends. And then I said that sociologists may be interested in anecdotal and formal economic indicators because they offer different stances. With anecdotal evidence, I said that it's usually a personal account of experience, and that's good because it offers insight into the lives of the people who are affected by these economic downturns, and just a day-to-day you're able to see like how they're able to go about their life and what they're doing and how they're feeling. And I think sociologists, we always opt to look at how a person is feeling, how certain things in the economy and in a society affect them in their life. And then, but I also said that a con of this was that personal accounts are not highly reliable, as they fall more into an opinionated spectrum versus factual. And what I mean by that is, like, a stripper, while their income can become lower than what they're typically used to, that does not always indicate a problem with the economy. That could just indicate that maybe that there's a problem with their audience. Maybe, people aren't as drawn to them as they once were before. And that's not a problem with the economy. That's more so a personal issue. So anecdotal evidence is not always the most reliable because it's more so opinionated and just based on experience and emotion. And then formal economic indicators are basically the complete opposite of this. The pros are that they are more factual, meaning that they're more reliable, but the cons are that this literally just graphs and charts, like in numbers. It doesn't give you personal insight into the people who are affected by these issues and the turmoil that is actually causing in the economy. So yeah, that is my video journal. Thank you guys for watching.